So in the city I live in, close to where I went to high school, actually, there's a street that's old and it's kind of on the outskirts of the downtown area and kind of goes towards like the expressways and makes your way over to it's kind of like caught in the middle of downtown hustle and bustle and transitions over to like highway up here and then into like the urban, nice, ritzy old homes and stuff. It's kind of right in the middle of that. That's a road that's run down, and there's an old lady that wanted some work done on her home. And from what I understand, the situation was she owns the property, but she's not living there, or at least I hope to God she wasn't living there. So she wanted to secure, without replacing anything major, she wanted to secure the entry to this home to prevent people from squatting and vagrants from coming in and, muddling with her property, because she had definitely had people squatting there. And from what I understand from working on the door and going through the home a little bit, unfortunately, that hasn't had a proper resident there in well over 10 years. The roof was collapsing in parts. Tons and tons of moisture had gotten to the house. The whole thing was caked in mold and filth. It looked like it was a hoarder's home. If you walked through, it was just a narrow aisle and then walls of garbage and crap piled up everywhere throughout. It was dank and dark and scary and gross. And this door I was working on was back when the house was new and in its proper state. It would have had a driveway that led to a garage, and then around the side, on like a side road, there was also a secondary, like, I guess it had once been a drive up, but then later on it was fenced over and it was kind of like a side yard into the backyard. So it was the side door that I was working on, because the front door tree had fallen through and it was completely collapsed in, so there was no getting through there anyway. It was completely blocked off. So it was just the side door that I was working on, and what I was doing is just installing a new deadbolt to secure it, because the old one had gotten lost, or I think it just had like a lock knob. So I put in a new deadbolt and a new knob, and she wanted both of them to be lock and key and separate, I think. This lady looked like a witch. She was hunched over and a long nose, and she smelled like pee, and she was just not very nice in the way that, like, she was rude but didn't intend to be rude. But she even had the voice like she like sounded like that, but she was just, her nature was rudeness, and she said things in a rude way, but the intention wasn't to be rude, if that makes sense. She was inherently a witch, basically. And so I talked to her on the phone and I set up the appointment, and I get there. I had done a quote prior, so I had seen the property, but I hadn't gotten in. Because the other thing is what she had someone come by previously to secure it, because she knew she had squatters. She got them either kicked out or she waited until they were gone. And she got someone to literally come with like screws and a drill and just drill shut the door. So there was long wood screws through the door and then the frame to secure the door so you couldn't open it. So I did a quote to do the new lock work, and then part of that was also removing the screws and getting the door to function how a door should again. So when I got there, first thing I had to do was I had to take out the screws, and then I had to get the broken knob open because it was broken shut, basically. That took me a while, and the whole time she's just right beside the door. She was just hunched over in her mobile chair, it was a regular wheelchair, and she's just like looking up at me and talking to me and asking all these questions. And again, very rudely, but not intending to be rude. I guess she had her neighbor or a relative of some kind drive her to the property to meet me there, because she wanted to be there to supervise my work. And whoever this guy was, she was so rude and wicked to him. Like, he came up because he was just sitting in his car, bored, and he just came up and he was chatting to me a little bit and talking to me. He was a very nice guy, kind of quirky, but nice. And she would just go, "Shut up! Like, what are you talking about?" And like, anytime he'd ask me a question that didn't pertain to the work at hand, she would just be like, "Will you stop blabbering?" Like, it's just so wicked to this poor guy, but he was a nice guy. Anyway, I went along working, pulled the screws out, managed to break the broken knob more so I could get to the latch and pull it back and pop open the door. And the wave of cold, dank air that was released in my face as I pushed open this door, dark and muddled and gross. Like, you push the door and there was literally a suction or air pressure that hit me, and it was just like, black mold! Oh! And you open the door and then you just see the walls caked and tattered and mildew and mold and water damage, and there was like parts of the ceiling caving in and falling. Like, it was just... And it's like the side door opens up to a stairwell, basically, and it was just a straight descent into the basement that looked like a root cellar from 1856. Evil looking. And then immediately to your left there was 2 steps that went up and brings you into what I presume used to be a kitchen, and then it goes throughout the rest of the house. So I get the door open, she goes, "Oh, let me in," and she's like rolling past me, and then like she I guess she can kind of walk, so I helped her up out of her wheelchair. And remember, she smells like a bag of pee. And I'm not trying to be mean. I think a lot of really old people tend to have a smell, and this is a completely... I'm going to go off on a tangent here. All respect to the elderly. I have an innate fear of becoming old, and it's partially to do with bad experiences with the very elderly and infirm. I don't know why, but even the presence of a very, very old person makes me uncomfortable. And I think it's because growing up, I had many experiences with some of my mom's side of the family, the ancient people that just lived forever. There's a lot of them in her family, and I spent a lot of time at like a retirement home for one of my great uncles as well, and we were playing like checkers with ancient people, and I just spent a lot of time in my youth with very old, very withered people, and it just kind of left this impression on me like that has to happen when you become old. You have to become infirm and just a ball of mush that smells like either cabbage or pee or poop. Like, it's never a pleasant smell. It always has to be some bodily fluid or fermented cuisine or delicacy. Anyway, she smelled like pee. As I'm helping her up, and her skeletal hand is grasping my arm as I lift her up and I bring her into the entryway. I'm like, "Please don't fall over." Like, there was a rickety, wet staircase that she was going to get on. She's like, "I'm fine." And she gets in and she's crawling up the little staircase to go into the main floor. And as she goes out and stumbles through the house to look around, she's like, "I'm going to see what they stole." I just kept working on the door. So I got the new knob on and the new deadbolt, and then there was problems with how the door was lining up because this thing had been sealed shut for, I think she said, over a year or two at least, and it was an old door to begin with. So I had to do a lot of work in fixing the frame where the knob and deadbolt would lock. It didn't line up anymore because of sagging and other issues. So I had to fix a whole bunch of stuff to get this thing to work. And in the meantime, she's kind of going through the house and rummaging around. And I remember this was the reason I really wanted to tell the story. At one point, near the end, I was kind of getting the deadbolt to line up so it actually lock, right? Like, you close the door and you'd go to turn it and it would get jammed because the deadbolt wasn't hitting the hole in the frame properly. It was misaligned. So I had to keep shutting the door, which, mind you, with all of the equipment on, there's no lights. Shut the door, pitch darkness. And the only light that I'm working with is the hole where the knob is still yet to go. Once I get the deadbolt working, I put the knob back on because I knew it was working. So I was just working with a small hole of light to see. I didn't want to set up my flashlight anywhere, like on my phone, because it wasn't enough light, and it was kind of the wrong lighting to see through where I wanted to see. It was just over blaring. So I was just working with a little bit of natural light I had through this spot hole in the door. And I was just working away, no thought in mind. I have my headphones in. I'm listening to like a podcast or a song. And the first couple times I closed the door, no problem. And then like the third or the fourth time, I remember I closed the door and I just about to get the deadbolt working. And then out of nowhere, it felt like someone like came up the stairs and kind of just lightly pushed me. Like someone kind of brushed against me as if they were walking by you. Like if you're standing, like, for example, let's say you're standing like in a subway station and you get to feel that breeze from the subway coming into the station. It felt like that, but it felt like all the wind went directly behind me and kind of pushed me towards the door. And it was like a cold, damp push. And it freaked me out. Like, I don't know why, it just gave me the chibis. And I opened the door quickly, and she's like sitting right out there waiting for me. And I went, and I opened the door, and she's like, "What?" I'm like, "Nothing." And I just get back to working on the door, but it freaked me out. And I'm probably just getting in my head about it because it was a creepy, dilapidated house, but it felt like an evil spirit, and I didn't like it. So I got the deadbolt working, I got the knob working, and I was like, okay, I'm out of here. Close the door. And then I proceeded to spend probably 30 minutes explaining to her how the key works. Because at first she's like sticking the key in, or she's not getting the key, and it doesn't work. And I was like, you gotta put it in like this all the way. And then you gotta turn it like this to lock it, and turn it all the way like this to unlock it. And I'm explaining to her how it works. And I'm like, this key is for the deadbolt, and this key is for the knob. And after 30 or 40 minutes of convincing her how it works, she's like, it's good. And then I'm about to leave. I got her to sign all the paperwork and got the payment and everything. Anyway, a mean old witch, but not in the way that you think. She meant to be. I think she intended to be nice. There's just nothing she said was ever nice. And creepy, yucky house. And I think she told me before I was going, she's like, yeah, there's a property management company that keeps reaching out to me, and they want to buy the property and make a high rise or something, because that's what's happening up and down the street now, is all the old houses are getting bought out and turned into apartments. So that's the plan anyway. And she's like, I won't sell. It's like, okay, keep this piece of crap then. Like, it's not like you're ever going to restore it. You're 107. Interesting situation. Kind of creepy. But that's part of the job.
Let's